Hey guys, alright, we are back with another Overly Sarcastic Productions video, this time Miscellaneous Myths, Pandora. Guy that has been commenting, forget your name right now, I'm sorry, commenting for me to watch the Aphrodite one. I will eventually, it's just, I haven't had the time, or, yeah, it's like, I keep myself to this very weird schedule that I don't know how to explain because it makes sense in my head. But yeah, I promise, I will watch Aphrodite eventually because I love me some Aphrodite. She's one of the best gods. She's one of the main ones. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Pandora's box. Or, well, I guess not really Pandora's box, but Pandora. And perhaps the box that she opens.
You know, mythology and folklore as a whole is a really incredible field to study. There's so much
It is.
creativity and wonder, and it's really fun recognizing story elements that have persisted to the modern day or been adapted in one way or another to stories we actually recognize. But sometimes you find a myth that really reminds you that you're studying a different culture from a different time and place, and that culture from a different time and place might have held some pretty nasty attitudes towards your demographic specifically, and they didn't hesitate to document those attitudes for posterity. And that can kinda
They did not hesitate. No, they did not.
So, this is the story of Pandora, the first woman whose entire gender was created by Zeus specifically to be evil and sexy and make men's lives worse. I'd like to apologize in advance for what the comment section is going to look like.
Oh boy. Disclaimer, obviously I've got a bias against the story that characterizes me and my gender overall as evil and or solely existing to make life harder for dudes. Besides the obvious sources of annoyance, it also does this thing where it correspondingly denies the reality of women existing, acting, and having lives and motivations outside the context of their interactions with and effect on dudes. While this story simply describes an stereotype, it's hard not to take stereotypes personally. It's kind of how stereotypes work. True. So this story pushes some of my buttons, and thus my retelling is not and cannot be fully unbiased. Nothing's ever fully unbiased. I've done my best to retell it accurately, albeit saltily. That is okay. But if you prefer your summaries to be devoid of personal opinions, I suggest you turn to Wikipedia. Carry on.
So Pandora's story is told by Hesiod in the Theogony and Works and Days, and it begins
yes, that famous book.
A time before women existed, when mankind had just recently been sculpted from clay by the titan Prometheus, or possibly Zeus. Whatever the case, life was pretty swell. People were immortal, technology was alright, life was good. Now Prometheus apparently really liked humans, and he was always trying to look out for them wherever he could. So when he realized that they kept having to burn all the best bits of their meat as offerings to Zeus, he decided to do something about it. So he went to Zeus with two possible offerings: a nasty looking ox stomach that was secretly full of prime beef, or a bone wrapped in delicious looking fat that looked a lot tastier than it actually was. Zeus picked the tasty looking option and accidentally set a sacrifice precedent where humanity got to keep all the best bits of the cow and just burn bones and fat. So Zeus is pretty pissed, both because of the disappointing sacrifices he's getting and Prometheus' sneaky subversion of his own supposed omniscience, and he decides to confiscate humanity's fire access as punishment. So this sucks for everybody, and Prometheus, again, decides to do something about it. So Prometheus sneaks up to Olympus and steals some fire, storing it at a fennel stalk while he brings it back to Earth and gives it to humanity again. Zeus spots the fire in the distance and gets crazy pissed at Prometheus, and decides to punish him first before he deals with humanity. Prometheus, rather famously, is chained to a rock, and his liver is ripped out and eaten by an eagle once a day. Of course, being an immortal titan, his liver also grows back every night, so the cycle can continue ad infinitum. Lucky Prometheus. So now this brings us to Pandora. Zeus decides to inflict a lasting punishment on humanity for reacquiring fire, and he conscripts all the Olympians to help him out. He has Hephaestus sculpt a beautiful body from clay and brings it to life with the four winds. Then Athena Zeus decides to inflict a lasting punishment on humanity for reacquiring fire, and he conscripts all the Olympians to help him out. He has
And make sure she's got nice dark eyelashes too. She has to be able to flutter her problems away. Yes, dear.
Hephaestus sculpts a beautiful body from clay and brings it to life with the four winds. Then Athena dresses her in fancy clothes,
Nothing to see
gives
here.
her a sex drive, Hermes gives her a brain and teaches her how to lie, and basically all of Olympus gets in on the action, giving her all kinds of nifty presents and character flaws. Hermes names her Pandora, meaning all gifted, or all giving depending on the translation, to represent the fact that every Olympian gave her a gift of some sort. The end result is that Pandora is a beautiful, alluring creature, but secretly she's also cunning and sly. You see, she's pure evil because she lures you in by being hot, but then, like, she's secretly a person underneath.
No, seriously, Hesiod's description of Pandora only says that she's got cunning and guile wrapped up in a beautiful package. Some translations say deceitful.
That's right, Hesiod's vision.
It doesn't really feel sufficient to make me pure evil. Silence, honey.
Evil is hot, but not dumb. Pandora also, rather famously, has a Pythos with her that contains a whole mess of interesting evils to unleash on humanity. And interestingly enough, there's no implication in Hesiod's telling of the story that she's unaware of this, which doesn't really line up with later characterizations that paint Pandora as an insatiably curious dupe. Remember, this Pandora is specifically not an idiot. That's what makes her so evil. So Zeus presents Pandora to Prometheus's dumber brother Epimetheus, and despite having been warned by the forward-thinking Prometheus not to accept any gifts from Zeus, Epimetheus is a being of pure hindsight, and accepts her. This is a bad call, as Pandora promptly dumps out the contents of her jar full of evil, and humanity is immediately stricken with all kinds of nasty things.
I've never heard of it
lifespan,
told like
childbirth,
this.
And Swedish fish. Only one thing stays in the jar: hope, representing the fact that humanity will always have hope. Greece, I love you, but come on. Shot through the heart.
Hesiod's attitude towards women in general and Pandora specifically appears to basically characterize them as Trojan horses, beautiful shells with danger hidden within. Of course, his characterization of that danger is the intellect and cunning of Hermes, so I'm inclined to take it as a compliment. I mean, you can. I'm not trying to sugarcoat Hesiod's story or spin this to sound dumber than it is. He's very explicit that the thing that makes Pandora horrifying is her guile, and the fact that her beauty disguises her cunning, that nobody would suspect her to have an agenda or the cunning to pull something like this off. Which frankly seems to say more about the person who looks at her and judges her capabilities purely by her attractiveness than it does about her specifically. Wow, text. But I'm obviously biased against being characterized as pure evil, so take my analysis with a grain of salt. And this is presumably why Athens kept their women uneducated, confined to the second floor of the house, and incapable of... Yo, what the fuck, Athens? That's fucked up. Blood red nails on your fingertips. Because a fictional woman created as part of a celestial dick measuring contest did her Zeus-given job, and this means that women as a whole exist only to make life harder for men. So shy, I'd say this makes you wonder about Hesiod's love life, but this is ancient Greece we're talking about. Hesiod's thoughts on women have next to nothing to do with the health of his love. Oh my god. It took me a second, but I'd understand. This was your first kiss goodbye. Oh, anyway, thank you to, they're patrons. Let's see. Oh, that's a long list of patrons. Goddamn. Let's go to this final diss. Okay. That was Miscellaneous Myths Pandora. Again, I am sorry that this is a short video, but it's about all the time I had for today to record. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to leave a suggestion down below for what you want to see me react to next, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.